In this video, I'm going to be breaking down this entire bison, or at least pieces of this bison that we got from the Rome Ranch field harvest. So Rome Ranch is a regenerative ranch outside of Fredericksburg, about an hour and a half away from Austin. They raise bison, turkey, chickens, a whole bunch of animals there in a way that is supposed to regenerate the land. The way that they rotate the animals regenerates the land, gives back to the soil. You know, the bison, they walk around, they use the bathroom in the soil, they spread fertilizer everywhere. It does well for the grass. The chickens come along, they eat everything. So I don't know, obviously, everything behind it, all the science and stuff behind it, but they're a regenerative ranch and they do a great job. And we did an event with them where we shot a bison harvest. You saw that last week. This is the bison breakdown. And next week we'll do the bison event. So right now they pulled out the loins, all of the whole loin. So basically what is the ribeye eye muscle and the strip loin, though it goes all the way down the back of the animal. So this is me just cleaning up all these loins, shaping, taking out all the silver skin, making sure that we're really kind of cleaning them up because we're going to cook these super rare and we don't want any sinew, anything that's going to chew on. We don't really want any of that stuff in there. We can put it in stock and put some of it in sausage, but also shaping them up nicely so they cook evenly. Now I got the POV action camera on. I'm working on a hind leg here. So for the two shoulders, we braise them to make a pulled bison. For the middle and legs, back legs, we broke them down to make bison meatballs and bison sausage. We didn't really do videos on those two recipes because there was just a jalapeno cheese sausage recipe, and we've made meatballs on the Patreon before. And we've done just like a pulled kind of preparation as well, like a pulled and braised. But really wanted to show the breakdown of this whole animal. Right now the idea was to start outlining all the bones and then kind of essentially open up the leg like a book, and then that will allow us to seam butcher this leg, and to see if we can save some of the big pieces that we can cook as like a kind of a rare roast beef preparation, smoked roast beef, and then use all the other scrap obviously for sausage and meatballs. So there's not really much to breaking this down. It's really just finding the bones, outlining them, and then scraping all the meat off you possibly can. And I never learned to do this from somebody teaching me. I just watched some videos and just did it enough to where I kind of developed my own technique of doing it. Pulling out the bone marrow there, that stuff is so good. It's definitely going to go in that sausage and just kind of enriching everything. There's actually not a lot of fat on these bisons, so trying to collect all of it and save as much as we can was really helpful. We cooked the other bisons and the sausage and the meatballs with a lot of beef fat actually. Luckily we have plenty of beef fat around at all times. Still continuing to seam out this leg. The bone is now gone and I'm kind of, as you can see, opening it up like a book. And the way that you can see me kind of using my knife really quickly in like short strokes, that's really just kind of opening up those seams, seeing where the connective tissue, where the fascia is going to take me, and then it's just going to open up by itself, and it's almost going to separate itself by just kind of using the flick end of your knife to separate those muscles. Anywhere I see some kind of real thick silver skin, I'm going to be taking that off too. We have one kind of big primal there. Another pretty big primal coming off here. Working with this meat was a little more difficult because The animal had not yet did not go through the full rigor mortis, did not really hang for long enough and get to like a deep chill temperature before we started really breaking everything down. So it was a little harder to cut, harder to work with. If we could change anything, I would hang the whole carcass for at least a week before we started cutting on it. You can see how that leg really just came down and how the connective tissue almost, is enveloping every muscle and is really kind of protecting it, and that's how they go together. So if you follow the connective tissue, you can really seam butcher almost anything. It's a really good technique for pulling out those whole muscles, for kind of preparing roasts and stuff like that, being able to trim down a whole anything. But honestly, most of what we did here was just to cut down for sausage and stuff like that. Okay, now we're moving on to the middle section here. I just started cutting on this thing and I realized I was cutting the brisket off. I realized I was butchering the brisket off. So I'm going to slow it down here for just a second. So when I'm cutting the brisket off, I kind of realize the flap or the flat goes super long and kind of extends down into the belly almost. So I'm going to cut a lot of it off. The brisket that ends up there is not going to be very big at all. But kind of piece in my hand there, and my left hand is the fatty. Kind of trimming that side, and then the lean part or the flat, it's kind of under that. You can see the striations of the muscles and how different they are, how one kind of sits on top of the other. You can also see how little fat is on this animal. Shaping the other side now. You can almost see it as a brisket now. Fatty on top, lean where the other side is. Kind of shaping it up. We did end up cooking this like a brisket. There were a few items, the tongue, the brisket, the hump, oh my god, the bison hump, that we cooked for a staff event just because there was not a lot of them. And let me tell you something, that hump, wow, bison hump was really good. It tasted like fatty brisket. That's it, that's the brisket right there. There we go. Bison brisket. Last little bit of butchery we're doing on this animal is going to be taking off all of the rib meat. This is something we also used for meatballs and for sausage, but the way I butcher it, it could very easily be used to wrap something. It could be used in a braise. If we're going to cook anything long to shred on this animal other than the shoulders, I would do this rib meat right here. Kind of taking it off in a nice long sheet, going down every single bone, getting that stuff in between all the cartilage. That's going to be really good too. Breaking down a bison. And this was really cool and fun for us to be able to break down this entire bison and get a bunch of new meat in there and just kind of experiment and see how this was going to react to smoke, see how it plays with our beef, see how the flavor is with all of the grass-fed, regenerative eating bison. Everything came out really good for the event. Stick around. Check it out next week.